Greetings and salutations, dreamers in Dreamland. Welcome to the latest edition of Listen to Me. Listen to Me, Volume 21. Today is April 6, 2021, and today, of all days, the Dream is going to deliver to you the DreameLand Boxing official top 10 pound-for-pound rankings. Now, first and foremost, I want to go over some of the rules, the criteria, the guidelines of the DreameLand Boxing pound-for-pound rankings. Now, unifications are huge. Being a unified champion, that's tremendous. Being a multi-division weight champion, that also holds water. But being a current unified champion, that can be more important. Your most recent, fights, those are very important. Your most recent victory as a fighter, that comes into play. Your resume overall, yes, it is absolutely important. Now, you must be an active, reigning world champion with a title from a sanctioning body. That must be the WBA, the WBC, the IBF, the WBO. Just being the IBO champion, sorry, I love the IBO, it doesn't work. Just being the Ring Magazine champion, I love the Ring Magazine, it doesn't work. Just being the lineal champion, no. You have to be a champion from a sanctioning body. That goes into being an active fighter. You can't be an inactive fighter like Manny Pacquiao, a champion in a recess. Doesn't work that way. You also can't be a fighter coming off a loss to be on the DreameLand Boxing top 10 pound-for-pound rankings. For example, you could still be a world champion, let's say, if you were a unified or undisputed champion at 140 pounds. You attempted to move up to 147 to challenge for a world championship. You didn't necessarily relinquish or lose your titles, all of your titles at 140 pounds, but you lost that fight at 147. Being that you're coming off a loss, no longer on the top 10 pound-for-pound rankings. You can't be a pound-for-pound fighter if you're not a champion, if you're not active, and if you're coming off a loss. The list doesn't work that way. Now, all those things stated, let us begin with this. At number 10, from the United States of America, the current unified welterweight champion of the world, the 147-pound unified champion, Errol Spence Jr. Errol Spence is the IBF and the WBC champion at 147 pounds. And, he beat two active reigning world champions to do so. He beat Kell Brook. He went over there to the United Kingdom to do that too. That was no easy road. He went over there in a tough fight, and he stopped that guy. He beat him up. He also beat Sean Porter in a unification for the WBC title. In an excellent fight, one of my favorite fights of 2019, Errol Spence in at number 10, representing the United States of America. Now, at number 9, representing Scotland, we have Josh Taylor. Josh Taylor, the current 140-pound unified champion, the WBA, IBF, Ring Magazine champion. Now, he also won the World Boxing Super Series at 140 pounds, the tournament. So he holds the Ali Trophy, which is a nice little trinket, in addition to being the unified IBF, WBA, and Ring Magazine champion of the world. Now, Josh Taylor's having a big fight real soon, coming up with Jose Ramirez, who is the other unified champion at 140 pounds. Jose Ramirez, who came real close to gracing the top 10 list, the pound-for-pound rankings. He came real close to making this list. Really, he's number 11, number 12, maybe. He's right there. Really number 11, number 12. But the winner of the Taylor and Ramirez fight is undoubtedly on this list. Now, there's another little piece of this list. If you beat a top 10 pound-for-pound fighter, if you beat someone on the DreameLand top 10 pound-for-pound list, you get their spot. Not necessarily their spot, you get a spot. Because that fighter on the list, if they lose coming off a loss, that's automatic disqualification. You don't automatically get their spot, but you get a spot. Now, with Jose Ramirez and Josh Taylor fighting, they will be fighting for all the titles at 140 pounds. A couple years ago, Crawford had all the titles. Terence Crawford had all the titles at 140 pounds. And here we are just a few short years later. And 140 pounds is going to be undisputed again. Completely unified. All the belts, the WBA, the WBC, the IBF, the WBO, they will all be held by the winner of the fight between Taylor and Ramirez. Now, having said that, if Taylor wins, he moves up. And if Ramirez wins, he definitely gets a spot on the list. But right now, today, Josh Taylor from Scotland, he's in at number 9. The IBF, WBA, and Ring Magazine 140-pound champion. Josh Taylor, number 9. Now at number 8, from Mexico, we have 2-weight division world champion Oscar Valdez, formerly 126-pound champion, currently a 130-pound champion, coming off a huge victory, a big stoppage win, an upset of Miguel Burchelt. Miguel Burchelt, who was the WBC champion, the authority at the weight at 130 pounds, really the boogeyman, guy that, no one was really running towards unless they were really looking for a fight. Oscar Valdez was looking for that fight, and he stopped that guy. Now, Oscar Valdez went out there, determination, great trainer, really took care of business. Take my hat off to Oscar Valdez, in at number 8, representing Mexico. Former 2-division world champion, currently champion 130 pounds, the WBC 130-pound champion of the world, Oscar Valdez. Now, at number 7, we have a representative from Japan. Now, if you're not a hardcore boxing fan, you might not have seen this guy fight, but if you haven't seen him fight, I really I recommend that you take a look at this guy because he's definitely a pound-for-pound fighter. He's a four-division world champion, the current WBO champion at 115 pounds. I'm talking about none other than Kazuto Ioka. Kazuto Ioka from Japan, 4-division world champion, current WBO champion. Guy's great. Next time he fights, definitely take a look. I recommend it. If you haven't seen him yet, the guy's absolute dynamite. Now at number 6, we have another representative from the United States of America. And, a lot of people say this is the other twin, but in my opinion, this guy doesn't get enough credit. Jermell Charlo. A lot of people talk about Jermall Charlo, and I hate even giving him the credence at this time. The guy runs away from fights with Andrade, with a fight with Andrade. Andrade, who's willing to unify, who sent him a $7 million offer from Eddie Hearn on behalf of DAZN, and also said he was willing and open to fight on a PBC platform. He said, you don't want to fight here? Send me an offer. I'll go over there. What does Charlo do? Nothing. He calls out Canelo's name. Canelo is not looking your way, Jamal, he's not looking that way. Canelo is going to unify 168 pounds. He's not looking at 160. Jermall Charlo has a title at 160 pounds. Triple G don't want no part, is not looking at you either. He's looking to make bigger money, fighting somebody else, somewhere else. But at the end of the day, Jermell Charlo, who is at number 6, has been cleaning out the 154-pound division. Cleaning it out. He's the WBA, WBC, and IBF 154-pound champion. Now, Charlo did lose to Tony Harrison, but he beat that guy in the rematch. He got his belt back. And the fight with Harrison, let me tell you, I thought that night Jermell Charlo was more deserving of a win against Harrison in the first fight than Jermall was when he fought Matt Korobov that same night. I thought Jermall looked worse against Korobov and definitely lost. And I thought Jermell possibly had a draw with Tony Harrison in the first fight. Look, I have no problem with Harrison winning. I thought he fought incredibly. I thought he boxed brilliantly in their first fight. Tony Harrison was boxing brilliant in their second fight until Jermell stopped him, until he stepped on the gas and beat the brakes off of Tony Harrison, bounced him off the canvas, and had him just befuddled on the ropes before the referee came in and stopped the fight. Jermell Charlo then went directly into a unification with Jason Rosario from the Dominican Republic, who had just beat J-Rock, Julian Williams. He had just beat J-Rock. And Rosario, was a young, tough fighter, went into the fight with Charlo, got stopped with a beautiful body shot. And let's be honest, Jermell Charlo was winning every minute of that fight against Rosario. He was. Jermell Charlo's cleaning out 154, and the WBO title at 154 pounds is currently over there on PBC Island as well. Now, Jermell Charlo, Brian Castano, Make it happen. I'd love to see it. Would love to see it. It's not a guarantee that it happens because Gary Russell Jr., Leo Santa Cruz, they were both on PBC Islands for the longest time. Whoa, for the longest time. They were on the same side of the island for the longest time in the same division on PBC Island. No unification. Makes no sense. When Charles Martin was the IBF champion of the world, Deontay Wilder was the WBC champion of the world. And what did Al Heyman do? What did the PBC do? They sold the belt to Anthony Joshua and Eddie Hearn for whatever Eddie Hearn was paying. I don't know if it was $10 million or $7 million or $12 million, whatever the money was. They sold it to him, and Anthony Joshua won. If you really wanted to make a champion, worth something, you wanted to give him some real steam, don't you think you would have made that unification between Wilder and Martin? Have made the best man win and have the winner on your island, on your brand, under the PBC banner? It's not what they did. They sold the belt. They sold the belt. So I'm not saying it's a guarantee that Castaño fights against Charlo for all the belts at 154, but man, I would love to see it. And let's be honest, an undisputed champion at 154 pounds, that would be a thing of beauty in the world of boxing. And if that was the case, if Jermell Charlo won, he would move up on the list as an undisputed champion. Being unified and undisputed, those things mean everything in boxing, and they mean everything in the DreameLand Boxing pound-for-pound rankings. Now, moving on. Number 5, another representative from the United States of America. However, he represented Honduras as an amateur. But that's Brooklyn's own, the Takeover, Teofimo Lopez. Look, I love Teofimo Lopez, and Teofimo Lopez is number 5 on this list because he beat the brakes off of Richard Commey. He stopped that guy and won the IBF title at 135 pounds, and then he immediately, he made Lomachenko take notice by beating Commey, and then he immediately, and Richard Commey, tough guy from Africa, from Ghana, one of my favorite fighters in the 135-pound division today. Richard Commey just knocked out a top 10 guy or a top 15 guy in his last fight. Richard Commey is dangerous, and he's still a very formidable guy at 135 pounds. Notice you don't hear Ryan Garcia calling him out. Notice you don't hear Devin Haney talking about Richard Commey. No, but Teofimo Lopez, he went at that guy. He stopped that guy, took his belt, made Lomachenko take notice. And then he had the unification match with Vasily Lomachenko, which he won in extraordinary fashion. He won the first 6 rounds of that fight going away, and he won the last round, in my opinion. And that's what put him over the hump and got him the win. Teofimo Lopez, just a hair shy of being the undisputed champion at 135 pounds. We can't forget the email that was sent by Bob Arum. He didn't want there to be a purse bid. Didn't want Eddie Hearn and his deep pockets to have Lomachenko fight Haney when Haney was the mandatory challenger, the number 1, mandatory challenger from the WBC. Eddie Hearn would have paid. Everybody knows DAZN's got deep pockets. Hearn's got deep pockets. He would have wanted Lomachenko on DAZN. Arum didn't want his star stud over there on DAZN. So he sent an email, and because of that, the franchise title was on, distinction was on the line, but not the WBC title. So Teofimo Lopez, WBA, WBO, IBF, and WBC franchise, French fry, champion. But Teofimo Lopez, unified champion, the authority at the weight at 135 pounds. He's in at number 5, representing the United States of America. Now at number 4, it's a little controversial here, but he's a 2-weight world champion, Mexico's own El Gallo, Juan Francisco Estrada. I say a little controversy because his last fight with Chocolatito Roman Gonzalez was a close fight. I scored it for Chocolatito. I scored it 8 rounds to 4, maybe 7 rounds to 5. There was a couple swing rounds in there, no question about it. I really don't have a problem with 7-5 either way. One of the judges' scorecards was a little crooked for Estrada, but nonetheless, Estrada got the victory. He's the unified WBA, WBC, and Ring Magazine champion at 115 pounds. He's a 2-weight division world champion. And Juan Francisco Estrada, El Gallo, in at number 4, representing Mexico. Now, as we crack the top 3, we have the second fighter representing Japan, and that's Naoya Inoue. Naoya Inoue, who is a 3-division world champion, who beat Nonito Donaire in an incredible final of the World Boxing Super Series at 118 pounds. He's the WBA, IBF, and Ring Magazine champion. He's got the Ali Trophy. Let me tell you something. Inoue, in his last fight on ESPN, incredible. Stopped his opponent. It was a tough guy from Australia. He beat that guy up, stopped him. It was a pretty one-sided affair. Naoya Inoue is definitely a fighter. If you haven't seen him fight yet, definitely take notice. Definitely watch him in his next one. Now, Terence Crawford is in at number 2. Representing the United States of America. Terence Crawford, 3-division world champion. Terence Crawford is personally my favorite fighter to watch in the world today. He reminds me of Marvin Hagler. The guy can switch hit. He was the 135-pound Ring Magazine lineal lightweight champion of the world. He moved up to 140. He was the Ring Magazine champion at 140, the lineal champion at 140, and oh yeah, the undisputed champion at 140. He held every single belt that had any alphabet in front of it. The WBA, the WBC, the WBO, the IBF. He had all the belts at 140 pounds. And then in his first fight at 147 pounds, what did he do? He beat Jeff Horn. Immediately jumped up there, beat Jeff Horn, who was coming off a victory over Manny Pacquiao. 7-division world champion Manny Pacquiao. And, an incredible fighter in his own right. And what happened? Jeff Horn beat that guy. A close fight. A lot of people felt that Jeff Horn, didn't deserve the win. I thought it was a very close fight. It could have went either way. It was a rough and tumble affair. A lot of people tell you Jeff Horn, he's, borderline dirty. I wouldn't say he's dirty, but he's definitely crafty. He's a cagey veteran. He's got some dirty boxing skills and tactics. He's a rough and tumble guy. Terence Crawford beat the brakes off of that guy in his first fight at 147 pounds. In his first fight at 147 pounds, Crawford beats Horn. What does he do? Goes right at Errol Spence. Right at him. He has Bob Arum at his side. They meet him backstage at a fight or a press conference somewhere. Terence Crawford goes right up to him. Let's fight. What does Errol Spence say? Oh, I'd rather take an easier road and unify with Porter first. Now, I'm not saying Porter's an easy night out for anyone ever. Sean Porter's another guy that I love to watch fight. He's a rough and tumble guy. He's a guy who's going to make every fight scrappy. But, Errol Spence, said he'd rather take an easier fight. Those were his words than fight Terence Crawford. What's Terence Crawford been doing since? Beating anyone that will get in the ring with him. From the Mean Machine, Kavaliauskas to Kell Brook. He's been beating, and to Amir Khan. He's been beating anyone and everyone that will get in the ring, and most of the guys are getting overpaid to get in the ring with Crawford because no one wants a piece of the guy. Hopefully we'll see a unification between Crawford and Spence. I know Spence is probably going to fight Ugas, who was elevated to full champion by the WBA because, Manny Pacquiao retired. Crawford might get a fight with Pacquiao, but I wouldn't hold your breath. Pacquiao's only looking for the bag. If it's not in Qatar or Abu Dhabi or Dubai or Saudi Arabia, where there's a lot of oil money, where they can overpay Pacquiao to the tune of $40 million, he's not going to get in the ring with Crawford. But Crawford's in at number 2. He would be in at number 1, but his strengths of opponent as of late, not really the best. And the guy who is at number 1, Canelo Alvarez, has been beating the very best at every division for the past 5 years. Look, from 154 pounds to 160 to 168 to 175. Look, don't forget, Canelo beat the brakes off of Sergey Kovalev. Stop that guy. Sergey Kovalev has a body on his resume. Sergey Kovalev at one time was the best fighter at light heavyweight at 175 pounds. Canelo Alvarez went up there and stabbed that guy, shrugged his shoulders, knocked him out, and stopped him. And he made it look fairly easy. Not to say it was easy, but he made it look easy. Canelo Alvarez then goes to 168 and cleans out the division. He's the unified WBA, WBC, and Ring Magazine champion at 168 pounds. And in his next fight, he's fighting Billy Joe Saunders in May for the WBO title. He's looking to clean out 168 and become the undisputed champion at 168 pounds. In his last 4 fights, he beat Daniel Jacobs. He beat, he beat Daniel Jacobs. He beat Triple G. He beat Sergey Kovalev, and he beat Callum Smith. Those are his last 4 fights. 3 different weight divisions, 4 world champions. All 4 of those guys fell by the wayside. Destroyed. Beaten. Gone. Canelo Alvarez's resume speaks for itself, okay? 4 division world champion. Current unified WBA, WBC, and Ring Magazine champion. One of the most recognizable faces in the entire sport of boxing, bar none. Fights on a level of skill with Terence Crawford, demands as much money as Anthony Joshua. His resume speaks for itself. Other than losing to Floyd Mayweather Jr., which he took as a lesson and used to improve his own boxing, Canelo Alvarez is flawless. As a professional, he's never lost. He's got that draw with Triple G, and yeah, I felt that Triple G won the first fight against Canelo, but that's my opinion. It was a close fight. And in the rematch, I felt Canelo edged it. I felt he nicked it. And look what he did to Jacobs. He beat that guy up. Look what he did to Kovalev. He stopped that guy. Rocky Fielding, thrown to the wayside. And Rocky Fielding's no joke. Stopped that guy in, what was it, the 2nd or 3rd round? Canelo Alvarez is the top pound-for-pound fighter in the world. Number 1 pound-for-pound fighter on the DreameLand Boxing list. Number 1 in the world, period. Canelo Alvarez of Mexico. So Dreamers in Dreamland, to sum it up, it's been a pleasure, yours and not mine. The top 10 was filled with fighters from all over the world. We had a couple guys from Mexico, a couple guys from Japan, a couple guys from the USA. Guy squeaked in there from Scotland, and one guy who, from Honduras, of Honduran descent. Ladies and gentlemen, it's been a pleasure, yours and not mine. Until we meet again, my friends, this has been the DreameLand Boxing official top 10 pound-for-pound rankings. Peace.